Life moves at a fast pace. Everybody has challenges. But God is on the move. From Pittsburgh to Nashville, join me on the journey on today's life, sharing stories of unshakable faith.
In 2016, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children estimated that 1 in 6 runaways become sex trafficking victims. Globally, there are 4.5 million people trapped in this epidemic. Christian band Remedy Drive has traveled the globe and has been the poster child for the breakthrough rock acts. Lead singer David Zock and his band has charted #1 radio hits, received several Dove Award nominations, including New Artist of the Year, and has toured with Family Force 5, Mercy Me, and the David Crowder Band. Today, David Zock is traveling the globe on a mission to help abolish human sex trafficking. This is his story of unshakable faith. This is today's life. David, it is so great to be in your home. You have like instruments everywhere. Is it always like that?
Well, we try it. Anna always picks it up, and then me and the kids always drag them all over the place. My drummer came over, and so we have the drums out in the living room right now.
Now, you are the lead singer for Remedy Drive, correct? Yeah. Tell me about Remedy Drive.
I started a band when I was in high school.
And how long ago was that?
I graduated in 98.
98.
So almost 20 years. So me and my brother started it. Then we went to college, started playing shows.
Now here in Nashville, or where were you?
Nebraska. I grew up in Omaha,
Nebraska.
Middle America. Went to college at University of Nebraska-Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we started just playing free concerts out on the quad. And that's where the band kind of started. Just playing free shows, writing songs instead of studying mathematics like I should have been, which was my major in college.
Yeah, math and music.
Yeah, people say they're combined. I don't know how, but I think they are. So
how did it grow? Tell me the growth and how you got to Nashville. And
well, we started, I don't know how, people always ask me, because other kids in bands will say, how can I do it? And I don't know the answer. We just played shows and asked people, hey, do you need a band? And eventually we started traveling 2 hours, 3 hours, 5 hours from Lincoln. And then we went all the way to the coast, West Coast, several times. And that's when, several years later, we got discovered by a record label here in Nashville. And the rest.
Now, what makes your Christian band different from other contemporary Christian music?
We've just figured out how to survive a couple decades and how to get through the ups and downs of industry, and have a lot of friends in bands. Bands don't seem to last that long anymore. Solo artists seem to last long, with bands it's hard to keep a band going.
It is. People change, and
people go
life changes
to new stages, getting through, when you get married and you have kids. I guess one of the things that makes a difference, we've always had our kids out on the road with us. My wife potty trained my kids on the bus. We're always, the kids are used to traveling. My son Jack's 11, he's been in like 47 states, I think, except for the 2, Hawaii and Alaska. I forget what the other one is.
Well, I know the Christian book publishing area, and it has changed drastically over the years, and I've watched the music industry here change too. Can you share a little bit? Have you noticed it, or have you seen it?
Yeah. For me, the goal was always to, we weren't sure if we wanted a label or not. But when we got a label, it was awesome, because the label opened so many doors for us, and got our songs out to a lot of people. Our songs were on the radio. And at the time, it seemed like that was the only route to take. And that was like 07, 08, when we signed our record deal and our album Daylight came out. And I'm so thankful for that. At the same time, there's a very narrow message that can make it through that filter. And I had more to say. I had things to say that aren't necessarily positive or safe for the whole family. Or I had more about this good news that Jesus from Nazareth talked about than just the parts that are easy to take in. And so for me, what's changed and what's been amazing is the technology, to be able to have a website without having a website designer, to be able to put music onto Spotify and iTunes and everywhere else where people listen and stream. It's easy. You know, you don't need a whole team. You just need a few great people that know what they're doing to help in their different areas of expertise. And I'm really thankful for technology and for the change and the way people consume music.
So you're happy with all of it? 'Cause
Yeah.
a lot of people are, you know, not so happy about how it's changed.
Yeah. If you don't have numbers in mind, then it's great. If you just like, for me to be able to just go to this one site that will take it and put the album to iTunes and put it out, and if I'm not looking at the numbers all the time, which it's hard not to, you know, if you're just looking at album sales and that's your kind of goal in life, is to sell a certain number of albums, then yeah, it's not a good time to be to be making music. But if you just want people to hear your music's being heard more than any other time.
And you're on iTunes.
Yeah.
So tell me the vision and the passion behind your songs.
Well,
what inspires you?
This sounds cheesy, but one of the ways that I get lyric ideas the most is when something really moves me in a film or in a documentary or in another song, or in the cheesy part would be the film. But or if someone's speaking, the psalmists inspire me. The prophets do, Isaiah especially lately. Just the honesty and the rawness of some of the things they had to say, and some of the things that were so important that needed to be said in poetic form. You know, there's a need for speaking. You know, but I love it that I get to write songs, because songs just have a way of connecting in a way that I don't think interviews or speaking or written word can. So I'm thankful to get to connect my words with melodies.
Can you think of one of your songs that just sticks out in your mind now that you can share the vision behind it? One of your favorites? One
of my favorites to play, and one of probably the most people know us by, is a song called Daylight. And it was almost 10 years ago I wrote it. Ava was being born, and I'm telling Anna, hey, hold on, the morning's coming. And I was listening to Bono was writing at the time, and he had written, why so dark before the dawn, so much pain before a child is born. And just this longing in my heart for the morning to come, and seeing the darkness and not ignoring the darkness. But hold on, daylight is coming. That's probably my favorite to play.
And that is based on your daughter?
And it was right around the time of her birth. And what's cool, I mean, like literally, so I'm holding a newborn baby at home the day I brought her home from the hospital, singing that while I'm writing it. And I was writing it in the delivery room, to my wife's dismay as well. But people connect with it that have had similar situations with children being born and difficult times around their children's birth, which I don't know how that happens with music. It's one of the things that makes it amazing.
That is so beautiful. Any other songs that you can think of that inspired you, or another song that you've written, the message behind it?
Another one from that era was All Along. And that's probably the one people know us most by, other than Daylight. What's ironic about it is it came at a time where we had this success, the thing that I was always chasing after. I wanted people to know my songs, I wanted people to know about my band, and the emptiness associated with that success. Feeling like, man, I was chasing this the whole time, and this whole time I was looking for something else, and realizing it was, man, this whole time I've been looking to be involved in a relationship with the King of Kings.
David, God has led you down a different path. Share it with me.
So we talked about those early days, and 15 years of my life just trying to make music, trying to make it, which led me up to 4 years ago. I'm writing songs at that time. I'm still at a record label, and my daughter and I watched this documentary on boy soldiers. And these boys are forced to carry AK-47s into conflict. The ones that are too little wear whistles, and they're like a human shield out in front. They're forced into all sorts of terrible, ritualistic horrific things you can't imagine. Their sisters are kidnapped and they're forced to be the child brides of generals. And my daughter Ava's watching and she's crying and I'm crying and she says, "Dad, why not God protect those boys?" And there's this helplessness that I've never experienced anymore in my life. Before that, I've never experienced that desire to want to be part of fixing problems like this and feeling like there's nothing I can do, I'm just one person. What chance do I have of making any difference? And so that those ideas started finding their way into my songs as I'm writing. And that level of darkness is hard to break through. Nobody wants to hear about that when they're driving to work or driving their kids to school, and yet I felt like compelled to write these songs. And I had to part ways with a record label in order to put these songs out at the time. And I felt like this idea of being enslaved, being taken advantage of by somebody else, is a universal thought. And the lyric that found its way to the top was, "I'm a soul inside a body, I'm not a commodity. You can't sell me, you don't own me. You can't shrink wrap these intimate thoughts coming from my soul and reduce them to the lowest common denominator." And all these thoughts, and I didn't know what was going to happen with them up until a day I sat down with a man named Matt Parker that started an organization called the Exodus Road. And Matt tells me, he's like, "I'm looking for a band, for an artist to talk about what we're doing. Help us raise funds, help us buy spy gear, help us buy covert surveillance gear to help rescue these girls." And as Matt's talking about what he does, he goes into brothels, he goes into the red light districts.
Where?
In Southeast Asia,
Okay.
in India, in South America, and Central America. And there's something, that same thing that was tugging my heart the whole time I'm writing these songs. He didn't know I'm writing these songs about slavery when I met him. And I said, "Matt, I want to join you. I don't want to just talk about it. There's a lot of people talking about stuff. Let me go with you. Train me." And he said, "That's okay. Ask your wife what she thinks." And I go home and Anna's like, "No way, what are you talking about?" I said, "Hey, how can we sing about this and not do anything? How can we ask people to sacrifice their lives potentially and to make significant sacrifices to their safety, to their finances, to buy this stuff if this is not something that we're doing?" And so it was like 2 a.m. and I was like, "Matt's coming over for breakfast tomorrow." He comes over and Anna's in tears and she says, "This will be our legacy." So 3 months later.
Now, when was this? What year?
This was 2013.
Okay.
So the beginning of 2014, a few months after that conversation, I find myself on the humid streets of Southeast Asia. I'd never been to Asia. I've traveled overseas with the band to like Europe and Scandinavia, but everything's different. He took me into these red light districts, and the heaviness of seeing somebody sell somebody else is like indescribable, and especially when they're teenage girls. And there's hundreds of teenage girls on these streets. All of them are part of this mass migration of the country's daughters from the farming communities down into the red light cities, like the red light districts of the major cities.
And they just sell them, the girls.
Yeah, and it doesn't look like what you'd think it would look like. Sometimes it's in dance clubs. And the girls will sit with customers and there's smoking and drinking, and sometimes it's in this one in particular was like this little tin roof, like a hut out in the middle of nowhere. It's a dirt floor, and what you do is you sit down, you order a drink, and they usually have girls on display. Sometimes they'll bring girls in and line them up, and you can pick a girl to hang out with you, but there was this girl that sat down with me. She had cut off shorts and flip-flops. Her name was June. And she eventually made it, her melody became like a staple on the album. Just this wonderful girl, scared to look me in the eyes.
How old was she?
I think she was like 14. She just looks like an ordinary junior high school girl. And June stuck with me because it was my last night there that first trip. And we had to go fast, and I was fumbling to pay for the drinks. The money all Go ahead.
Did she know that you were saving her?
No.
Or did she know you were a safe person?
That's an interesting question. Because, you know, guys come into these places and they exploit these girls right in front of everybody else. You know, they're terrible, they're mean, they're handsy, So sitting next to me has to be different, and I hope that maybe there's something in my eyes that she can see that I'm different, but I can't tell her, you know. I'm undercover. The Exodus Road operatives were undercover. We never tell these girls
So you're
what we're
going
doing.
undercover,
Yeah.
trying to make a relationship with these girls to get them to go with you, right? Or
So the purpose is, so we have hidden cameras, we have spy gear, covert gear, and we are there to build evidence against this club that's selling this girl. And we do that in a lot of different ways. And because of the gear that Remedy Drive's fan base helps buy and other people help buy, we're able to do it. And I mean, it's amazing, this technology that we're able to use. But what's devastating is I can't take her with me. I can't take June with me, and June's one of hundreds of girls that I sat with now.
so what happened when you were getting ready to leave?
We had what we needed. She was offered to me for the equivalent of $60 USD. And you get used to this after doing it for a while. And everybody else, you know, the other two guys on the team that night, they're used to it.
Did they get suspicious when you didn't take her, or?
It's normal for guys to window shop, or we make up an excuse to leave and we leave. But when I looked back at her, she's just there. You know, and there's another guy that just came into the club. And you know what's going to happen to her, and you know what is happening to her. And that's the worst part about doing this, is if we're going to make any significant impact against sex trafficking in this region, then it has to be through the proper channels, with the cooperation of the local authorities, right? And it's got to involve arrests. We got to put traffickers behind bars. We got to take these mobsters off the street and send a message to crime syndicates all over the region that somebody's looking. Even when the entire culture and the entire world is looking the other way, somebody's watching. And that's what makes it hard, because now I know her. I just spent 30 minutes with her, 20 minutes with her. I know about her sister. I know she misses her mom back home. She misses the simplicity of her farming life and her farming community. She's confused usually when it's her first day there or first week there. She doesn't quite know what's going on. She'll shake her head. She says, I don't want to go with this man. She says it in her language, and the woman selling her says, you have to. The bar owner demands that you go with this man. She's like, I don't want to. I thought I could just dance. I thought I could just sell drinks. And in that situation, they'll say to me, come back in a week, we'll have her ready for you.
David, you wrote a beautiful song about June. Will you sing it for me?
Yeah, I would love to. Come home, child. The wind blown by trial. Rest your head for a while. Hold on till dawn. Dream of freedom while the war rages on. And child, come away, come and take cover by my side. Come away, come and take refuge. Come and hide. I will be your shield with fire on the battlefield. The shadows subside, the darkness will hide at the break of the light. And child, come away, come and take cover by my side. Come away, come and take refuge. Come and hide. I will be your shield don't you know you're not on your own? And child, I love you so don't let go, won't take you home. And child, come away, come and take cover. And child, come away, come and take cover. By my side, come away, come and take refuge. Come and hide, I will be your shield with fire on the battlefield.
David, that was a beautiful song.
Thank you.
What happened to June?
I was disappointed because we went back several months later, built a great case against that club, and as it goes oftentimes because of corruption, somebody tipped off the raid. And we were all disappointed. I was in country when that happened. But then later on, right when Commodity, the album, came out that week, they went back in a third time and rescued June and another girl and arrested the people selling these girls and took down the organization. That club's still closed to today, which makes me excited.
Oh, it is. What a blessing. God has used you in a mighty way in that. And do you have any other rescue stories?
There's one, you know, with June, that being my first thing, it was like it's rare to be part of an organization where, or an operation where you really, where it's like that, where it ends in success like that, and they happen, you know? And we celebrate like 2 girls are rescued in India, or 5 girls are rescued, or 9 girls. But there was this gear that at a concert of ours, we helped transport, we helped pay for the transport and the operation of this cyber forensics gear, this incredible gear that can strip data off of phones. And we used that along with law enforcement to take down this slave ship operation. They were bringing Rohingyan refugees that were running for their lives from Burma. And they'd try to get to Malaysia, but the ship would take them and sell them into detention camps and the sex trafficking, labor trafficking families that paid to get on this ship. So it's some of that most evil that you can imagine. And this gear that, because of a little concert we played in Nebraska, we got to contribute, help take down that whole slave ship operation. It's 300 people at a time that were being trafficked. And now they can't do that anymore. And there was hundreds and hundreds of people at the camp that were freed and have a chance at life now because of little things like that, and generous people at concerts that say, hey, I want to be part of this.
How has God changed your faith through this whole process?
I'm still where my daughter was when she said to me, Dad, why not God protect those boys? So that seems like a step back in faith in many ways.
He's taking you through that journey.
He's taking me through it. I'm in the middle of it, probably. So I'm consistently saying, like, you know, sometimes there's nothing else to say but like, why? Or where are you? Why is this girl? You know, this is her life, this is all she knows. And when people say things like, oh, God has a plan for everything, or everything happens for a reason, I don't see any plan or reason for a 15-year-old prostitute that's forced to do this.
You know, when you said earlier that, what can I do?
Yeah.
Look what you are doing. You're making a big difference.
And the cool part about that story with what you said is, when I said, God, where are you? Ava said, God, where are you? I tweeted that day. And this girl in Michigan, I've never met her, she tweeted back and says, maybe God's asking you, where are you?
Exactly.
And that's what's woven its way into the core of our message, is where are you at? You have a unique skill. Nobody else has your skill. These guys have cameras. I have a guitar or a ukulele. I have my songs, I have my vocal cords. Your vocal cords are unique. Everybody has their unique thing to offer to this movement, this modern day abolition movement.
And you have a new CD you're working on related to this project. Tell me about it.
So Commodity was the original CD that, you know, we're halfway done with when I met Matt from the Exodus Road. These songs are going to continue the story, but also hopefully broaden the idea from specifically abolition, because I know not everybody's moved to be part of the abolition movement. So, you know, at concerts we've recruited 3 guys to come and join me as undercover operatives. Not everybody can do that. And not everybody's called to take care of girls afterwards, but I do believe with all my heart there is something that is your unique role with your sphere of influence. So that this new album is going to say, hey, whatever you do, let's do it in the direction of freedom, justice, compassion, and mercy, because that is the gospel that Jesus from Nazareth talked about.
David, thank you so much for what you're doing.
Thank you.
God bless you greatly.
Thank you.
Are you in a life of bondage and you don't know what to do? Run to your Savior, Jesus. He is there to set you free. Trust Him so that you too can share your story of unshakable faith that will give Him honor and glory. This is Today's Life. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.
Cornerstone Television wishes to thank all our faithful viewers whose consistent prayers and financial support have made this program possible.